Thank you for listening to The Afternoon Pint. We are an independent podcast and we need your support. Please take a moment to hit that like, follow, and share button. Email us if you have an idea or suggestion for the show. Please send your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to the Afternoon Pint. I'm Mike Dovin.
I am Matt Conrad.
And who's with us today?
My name is Jeanette Boudreau. Thanks for having me.
Jeanette, welcome to the show.
Doctor.
So you're a blood doctor? Is that
A blood doctor.
is that how you say it?
It sounds like you're making her a vampire.
So a blood doctor is a real thing, but I'm not a blood doctor.
Oh,
I'm an
okay.
immunology doctor.
Oh, sorry.
And more specifically, no, that's all right. I have a doctorate. I am not a medical doctor,
Not a medical doctor.
but PhD is the original doctor.
Yeah,
the medical
yeah.
doctors stole that from us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So what do you do?
So I run a research lab at Dalhousie, and I run Cancer Research Institute across Atlantic Canada, where we knit together all the research expertise we have in cancer across the Atlantic provinces. But more specifically in my lab, we're trying to figure out ways to leverage people's immune systems as therapy for cancer. And where that works really well is actually in blood cancer. So I'm sort of a blood doctor by default because it seems to be where things are working.
See, I had it. I just, I try to condense
You were almost
things,
there.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, you were there. You were there.
Yeah. So, you focus on like immunotherapy, natural killer NK cells, ovarian cancer, precision medicine. Like, it's a pretty wide breadth of what you do in this lab, and using AI and data science to improve cancer treatment. Your lab is working towards less toxic, more personalized cancer therapies that can realistically function within Canada's public health care system. Is that an accurate description?
Sounds pretty good, but you forgot the pancreatic cancer part.
Sorry. I did my absolute best.
Don't forget those guys. Those guys need it.
Shout out to Pancreas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got to go and visit the lab.
Cool.
And it felt like something out of a movie.
Yeah,
it was
what
pretty
way?
crazy. We actually, it looks like every movie lab, like every scientific movie lab that you've ever seen in a movie. And we even joked on the tour that's like, what villain's origin story will start here? Because it looks like something like that.
In a blood lab, a lot of them. The Morpheus movie took place in a blood lab.
Like the Hulk will probably start there. Like who knows, right? Like
Right, right.
Spider-Man.
All
like,
the villains have PhDs. Dr. Octavius, they're
Right.
all,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it drives you nuts. But the difference is we turn the lights on, right? If you watch CSI and stuff, it's always blue light in there.
Yeah, that's right. They always got the lights down.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, yeah, it is. It's bright in there. So yeah, I got to look at like some cancer cells and stuff like that. It was under a microscope. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think the thing, honestly, out of all the cool things that happened in that lab, the thing that stuck out the most when I left was the enthusiasm of everybody.
Yeah, I got a great team.
It's insane that these folks. Like you'd think like, okay, well, I'm working with cancer and trying to fight cancer, trying to come up with cures to cancer and all this stuff. You think like that could be a little bit like in some days not super happy days, but the team was like very happy to have us there and so enthusiastic about talking about what they're doing. It's awesome. Like really, that's the thing that I left with the best. Like cool. That stuck with me.
Oh, that's awesome, because it's when people come to visit that we get charged up too, right? Because you can get stuck in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Somebody recently described it as just the slow and stubborn work of getting the work done, right? It's not, we don't have these breakthroughs. Nobody's yelling eureka and running around the lab or anything like this. But when we have people coming in and we're telling them the stories, we start to kind of understand like, we actually are making a difference, right?
Yeah.
And even if that difference is just hope right now, we're hoping to turn that hope into something real. And I think we are, which is, that is exciting. And yeah, cancer sucks. Cancer absolutely sucks.
I'm sure almost everybody listening has somebody, affected by cancer, either themselves or somebody else.
Yeah.
And there's billions spent on cancer, right? Most of us still don't even understand really what cancer is.
Right,
I think on a high level, we just get it.
Yeah, and I think we don't always understand that, somebody's diagnosed with cancer and they go through treatment, but how intense and terrible that actually is, right? How long the chemotherapy goes on, how toxic it is, both, physically toxic, but also financially toxic and toxic to your relationships and your work and your ambition and your energy, right? Like, we have to be able to do better.
Did you lose anyone firsthand to cancer, like young in life? Is that some way inspired this, or?
You know what? I think everybody has, but I don't have one of those origin stories of, a really, really close loss. But I have so many stories of people that have gone through this. And even in the lab now, we're working with these patient partners. And these are people living with and beyond cancer. who come and share their lived experience with us. And they tell us, this is what it was like. And we meet their family members and we meet the people that help take care of them. And we, look at them in the eye and try to tell them this is how we're doing better for you.
Yeah.
But they bring to that, like they're part of the team too, right? So they bring to that all of these questions that quite often actually lead us into different ways of thinking, right? So, we mentioned financial toxicity, right? So some of these treatments are so expensive. You've got people in a Canadian public healthcare system running GoFundMe campaigns so that they can afford to pursue treatment, right?
100%.
So,
and it doesn't make sense probably to the person on the outside. I always thought of that because, you look at it and you're like, why are they doing the fundraising thing? Like, doesn't Canadian healthcare cover all that stuff?
But no, like it'll cover your drugs,
yeah,
but it's not going to cover the time you didn't spend at work, the gas money to drive down from Cape Breton, whatever it is that you need to do, right? This is
that's what I think people don't really realize. That's the kind of invisible cost. Yeah, our healthcare will pay for your treatment, but where you get that treatment and how the things you miss during that treatment is not covered.
And ultimately, what do you decide? Do you decide to pursue treatment or do you decide to pursue other options and avenues? But it's more than that, right? It's not just whether you live or die. And so often in cancer, we think, overall survival, how long did people stay alive? But we don't spend a lot of time thinking about quality of life.
Wow. Yeah.
But if you ask a patient, they said, well, if I had to choose between two therapies, I choose the one that keeps me feeling well and having dinner with my family and stuff like this, right? It's not actually the dying part that's...
Yeah.
That's obviously part of it, but it's the suffering that you undergo for, sometimes years afterward, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's changed a little. There are people now living with cancer and thriving in some instances where, a terminal cancer that, there's certainly an expiry date for them, but their quality of life isn't just horrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I want to go back to blood cancers for a second because that, used to be a place where some people were cured, but a lot of people weren't. And you could hit the end of therapy without there being something new that the doctor can offer, right?
Right.
But that landscape is changing quite a bit. And you got to see some of this when you were in the lab, right?
Yeah. So how are we making progress? What's changing?
Well, so I love immunotherapy. So I'm going to talk about immunotherapies, but there's all kinds of other interesting drugs and small molecule inhibitors and stuff that are coming up. But
they got some new tech that I got to see. That was cool.
Yeah?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is figure out ways to use the immune system to get rid of the cancer. And this is like not new age. This isn't science fiction. In all of us, people actually get tumors all the time or would-be tumors, and their immune system take care of it. You never know that you have a tumor.
Right.
Or they get radiation therapy for their tumor and the immune system gets recruited and they kind of do the secondary work of it. So me and a lot of other people are just asking, like, what's happening and how can I boost that up, right? So you saw the CAR T-cell lab, right? Which is where we're taking CAR T-cell or T-cells out of a human using viruses to engineer new bits and pieces on them, like adding extra weapons onto these T-cells that direct them toward things that are only expressed on the cancer or that are expressed on cells that you could do without. And then we fire them back into the patient, and that can control their disease. So you've got people, right now I think the record is about 14 years on from a terminal diagnosis, and the cells are still circulating in this girl's body. We have a birthday party for her every year.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So you literally almost activated almost like little tiny weapons in her body to fight off the virus.
Yeah, and just like you would with like a vaccine against the flu or whatever, these cells can circulate through and hunt out any hiding out cancer cells. So if the cancer tries to come back, the immune system's just sitting there waiting
It's amazing.
to take it down again, right?
Where do you start with this? Do you start on animals? How do you kind of like get these types of results?
So we start even before animals, right?
Yeah.
So we are super fortunate. We work with Canadian Blood Services and people who donate blood just for regular transfusion the same way anybody would. And when they donate blood, they're asked if they're okay with their cells being used for research. So you can't transplant the immune cells from one person blindly into another person. That would cause all kinds of problems. So CBS actually takes those out. And normally they would throw them away, but for us, they're gold. So we retrieve these things from the blood bank. We're vampire stuff, right?
That's cool. Now, this is getting science fiction now.
Yeah. And we take them to the lab. I don't know if they were there, but there's, blood stuff all over the place all the time.
Just bloody stuff everywhere.
And we study them because now we have like a sample of all the different immune systems of people that donated blood in Atlantic Canada, right? So we can get a sense of like, how do they behave, and what if we push them this way, and can we do
How widely
this?
different is one immune system to the next?
So widely different.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've had these examples, right, where the cold rips around your household and one person doesn't get it.
I make fun of him all the time because he's like, I'm immune to everything, and
I
I'm
don't
like,
get sick.
and I give him a hard time about it, and I'm more I'll pick up a cold if it was happening across the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my wife was kind of giving me kind of shit over the weekend here because we went for a hike, and both my wife and my son had ticks on them when we left the hike. This guy, 0. And she's like, I don't understand it. You never get sick. I've been with my wife for almost 16 years. And she's like, she's not ever seen me sick. And she was like, you don't get sick.
You'll find gamma
she's
rays.
Like, seriously,
like Incredible Hulk.
smash. And she was like, and the ticks you had no ticks on you.
Yeah.
She's like, what is wrong with you? I was like, maybe they just don't like my blood. Maybe viruses don't like my blood. Or I don't know.
Superhuman. Yeah, except one day he's going to get infected with something wild.
Oh, it's going to get leprosy or something, right? It's going to be something big.
Well, and it's funny you say that because like people have these, but in the cells I like, the natural killer cells, they have all these like influences where you say like, if you have this combination and this kind of NK cells, then you won't convert to AIDS if you get HIV infected. Or
So there's people who can't get AIDS, basically?
there are people who are resistant. I won't say that they can't get AIDS, but there are people that are more resistant than others, right?
Okay, interesting.
And there's other people that are highly sensitive, but they always come at a cost, right? So we don't always know the other side of the coin, but there's some combos that'll say, yeah, but, if you get pregnant, you're going to have a high birth weight baby or a low birth weight baby.
Yeah.
And so it permeates like infection and disease and cancer, but also pregnancy. So you start to kind of get a sense of how evolution over time has favored diversifying the immune system, right? And it makes sense, right? Because if now suddenly some new virus comes to town, at least it doesn't wipe out your whole population, right? But what if we could like leverage that and say, well, if your NK cells are good anti-cancer cells, I want more of those.
Right.
And then you start putting those into the patients whose NK cells maybe aren't doing as good a job.
So your efforts are to reprogram the immune system to a certain degree, eh?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And she was saying, and something that was really interesting is we were talking about how different like ethnic groups and stuff like that, and how you don't really have enough samples of that, and how like this is something. So if anyone listening, if you're not just a white dude, go out and like give blood so that you can like do work on it, basically, because there's a lot of like of these kind of like sub Nova Scotian cultures.
Are you saying we mostly just have white dude blood?
We have a lot of white dude
We have
blood.
a lot of white dude blood, yeah.
It's
it kind of reflects society.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like they just, and you'll explain it better than I will, but
We need a more diverse blood
we
profile.
need a more diverse blood pool to kind of check. And like they were saying, like how like isolated towns and stuff like that. We were laughing about how like same people breeding over and over again become big problems and things like that. But yeah, like explain that, because that was fascinating.
No, you're doing a great job.
Wow.
Well, so it's an interesting thing, right? Because you want to kind of create things that work in everybody, but so far you're right. Like we got a lot of white dude blood, and that's not just me. That's like in the world. If you think about the places that have done research and the types of people, I mean, honestly, a lot of studies are done on university students because they're willing to donate blood to studies and they're nearby, right?
Get a few bucks for some beer on the weekend, right?
Precisely, right? And so, but it biases the population, so you don't actually know. And this is actually true in, people who have bone marrow transplants, right? So if you look at the bone marrow registries, people who are sort of from one ethnic lineage are overrepresented, but people of mixed race, people in minority populations are not as represented in these biobanks, right? So if now you have a person with cancer who fits into one of those demographics, screening the biobanks might not be as successful. We don't know as much, and we're trying to apply medicine grandly, but we haven't necessarily sort of studied those populations. So you're making assumptions that are...
And the immunity system of somebody that lived their life in South Africa versus here, and the DNA that's evolved over time in that region is just to hear be vastly different, right? The environmental tolerances.
And the blood can be very different. Like I don't think people quite realize that, like, we know that, like, African Canadian or African American like men have a higher probability of getting type 2 diabetes or diabetes, right? And it's like and that's all blood stuff. So it's like we need to learn more and study more blood samples of people we may not have enough samples of.
Right. And in general, and I mean, I'm immune centric about everything, but there's loads of things that contribute to all of these sort of...
Yeah. So I'd like to get back to the human side of you, Jeanette. Like University of Waterloo. So this is where you started your university career. What were you studying at the time, and what were your ambitions
God.
before you got into this field?
So a long, long time ago when I was in high school, I had to make the difficult decision of whether I wanted to be a scientist or a musician.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
What instrument were we playing as a musician?
At this point, I was big into the trumpet. I played in a jazz band.
Okay.
And the piano. I had taken piano lessons forever. And then I
Cool.
could play a bunch of other stuff.
I failed at both of those instruments in life, so congratulations.
fantastic.
Try them both, yeah.
My whole plan was I was going to write scores for movies. Like, to this day, I
really?
thoroughly appreciate a good musical score.
Nice.
Anyway, so there's a co-op program at my high school. I'm old enough that I went to grade 13
Okay.
Oh, okay.
in Ontario. Yeah.
okay.
Which left you with a bunch of extra time at the end of high school to
What
just
a
take
horrible
whatever.
grade year.
I know.
Just seems like everything just seems wrong about that.
I know.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like done with high school and whatever. But anyway, there was this co-op program. And you could go to the University of Waterloo, take a university course, and do a co-op program in something. So I went to my advisor and I said, I don't know, music or science. And she's like, okay. So they parachute me into this lab that studied the immune response to exercise and stress, which was pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I fell in love with science. And I was like, okay, cool. Music shall henceforth be a hobby. I'm going to do this science thing for a while. And then I just like refused to leave. So I did the co-op thing. I went to Waterloo. I did summer studentship stuff. I did volunteer things. I did a thesis. And after 5 years or so, there was this woman whose lab I was like, crouching in. Said, okay, it's time for you to go learn from somebody else. So at this point, you sort of realize the immune system is really, really powerful. We don't know anything about it, but what if we could like start pointing this at cancer? And this is like 2005 or something, right?
Okay.
So this idea was relatively new. It wasn't quite like out there with, I don't know, conspiracy theory medicine, I suppose, but but it was relatively nascent. So I went to grad school. I went to McMaster. And we worked in this lab where I was trying to activate the immune system against cancer, but I was trying to teach it. There's these cells called dendritic cells that signal to other immune cells. So I was trying to train it by training the DCs. And I thought I was activating T cells. I was not activating T cells, but this is where we started in mice, right? But my mice weren't getting cancer in my treatment groups. And it turned out it was the natural killer cells that was doing all the heavy lifting. And I thought, this is really cool. I have no idea what this means for human health. So I then went and worked for a bone marrow transplanter because in the context of bone marrow transplant in humans who are different from mice, you can watch the whole immune system redevelop after it gets reset, right? Because for a patient with blood cancer, we wipe out their blood cells and then we retransplant them with stem cells from a healthy person. And they grow back, right? And so you could ask all kinds of questions about how does the immune system develop and how do these natural killer cells work in people. And there's this neat thing that happens where depending on the configuration of the donor cells that you have, patients become more or less likely to relapse. And we only figured this out after the fact, right? But it was kind of like this experiment that it did itself and we just kind of observed it as it happened. So I finished that up and came back to Canada. I'm Canadian. And my lab now kind of marries all of those concepts. Is how do we change the immune system? How do we train it? How do we figure out what it means for a person? And then how do we like point it at cancer?
Yeah. I'm going to replay this episode for more science fiction movie ideas. Natural killer cells. Sounds like
the best name.
that just sounds like a really good super movie come out in the future. That's so
But
cool.
you know what, though? That's the thing, though, is like in kind of having the next generation being inspired by this to kind of get into science and things. Like I know I have a 4.5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I have conversations with him all the time, but like, do you want to be a scientist, right? I'm like, I hope he is. I'm like, dude, be a scientist, because he listens to like Spider-Man and Iron Man, and these guys are scientists. And it's one of those things where it's like they look up to these superheroes so much, and it's like they're it's Iron Man's superpower is the fact that he's a scientist, right? Like that's really his only superpower.
Yeah. And I think you come up in the field, and had I not been dropped into that lab, who knows what would have happened to me, right? But I think, you realize you like science, so you think about becoming a doctor or a dentist or a vet, like these things that you can see. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But like, it's never presented to you as like you can be a scientist, right?
Yeah.
But you got to meet some of the students that are in my lab, and they're these phenomenal humans who likewise, were fortunate enough to find their way to me.
Yeah.
And they're passionate about what they do, right? Because we get to come and sort of ask questions, and we play around all day, right?
How would you say, or how would you think that cancer is like an intelligent enemy in terms of how it evolves and how it changes itself in terms of making it hard to fight?
I hope you're enjoying a pint with us. We'll be right back. Your dream home does not have to be just a dream. Today's show is brought to you by Camilla Najat of Exit Realty Metro. Camilla is the realtor who knows how to get things done. Buying or selling? Go to afternoonpint.ca and we will help with a personal introduction. That's afternoonpint.ca/Camilla to make your dreams become a reality.
Yeah, so, a virus or bacteria or parasite, whatever infects you, is entirely different from you, right? So the immune system sort of goes, that's not me, and
It's not a piece
off
of
it
me.
goes,
It's
right?
Okay, yeah.
But a cancer is the opposite. A cancer is
Right.
your own cell that has gone off the rails, right? So
Rogue cell.
so it hides out because it looks an awful lot like yourself, right? So it actually takes quite a lot, not to mention that it's indolent, right? It just sort of happens, and it's slow and whatever. Like, if you get a bacterial infection, it probably came with something inflammatory. You probably stepped on a nail or whatever.
Right.
And so your immune system's kind of already on high alert, whereas these other cancers, they just sort of one day something goes wrong in their replication and they, sort of accumulate these mutations and they just grow up really slowly. So it's like this enemy that grows up from inside quietly.
It's like Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage movies. So, I mean, there's a bunch of great movies there. Then all of a sudden, one day, one out of the gate was really super weird. And you're like, that doesn't seem like the Nicolas Cage I know.
No, that is 100% the Nicolas Cage,
It's him, but it's a lot. It's more unhinged. There's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Those are Nick Cage movies. It's the good ones that you're kind of like,
Where did that come from?
He still makes great movies. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, how optimistic are you now? I mean, in terms of, I know that's such a, like, I have a question, but, like, how optimistic are you today with the technology at hand?
Very.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the thing to really kind of press into is like, there's not one cure for cancer, right? You're going to need thousands, right?
Yeah.
That's the conspiracy is people think like, why not cure cancer? Like there's a cure for cancer. They just don't want you to know it or whatever. It must be the most frustrating thing you come across.
I'm not in on the secret if that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like there's 1,000 different types of cancers.
Right.
So it's like,
and they're as different as the people that they grow up in, right?
Yeah,
because they all
right.
kind of came from their own background.
Because again, back to that kind of the person or that imposter syndrome that's growing inside of you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and every person, like we talked about earlier, every immune or all that stuff, we're all so unique in that way of how we're immune to different things.
it's like a snowflake.
yeah.
It's like a snowflake, but a really, really ugly, horrible one. But
exactly,
I will say that since I started this whole thing in, whenever it was that I started grad school, we've literally, the global we, have literally cured some cancers, right?
Yeah,
there are
so
cancers that used to be fatal, that
Right.
are not fatal, that have, 5-year survival rates in the high 90s and stuff like this, right?
Right.
So
Wow.
we haven't done it for everything yet. There's lots of cancers that we haven't done it yet for. But I'm really optimistic because as I see these kind of slowly start to fall, and that's just, from the immune lens, but there's chemists and physicists and stuff that are doing all kinds of also really neat stuff. And they're flipping the script on what, patients used to have to hear, right? Which was all too often get your affairs in order.
I mean, you're one lab out of Halifax, respectfully, right? I mean, how is all the data that you do and all the research and work you do kind of collaborated on like a wider scale with all the other scientists around the world and stuff?
In a bunch of ways.
Yeah.
So we all talk to each other.
Okay.
Most of us are pretty collaborative. I know most of the Canadian immunologists, and I know the Canadian folks that are studying ovarian cancer and pancreas cancer and some of the other ones. And so you get to know really soon sort of who can do things when you hit the limitations of what you can do. So I'm good at natural killer cells. I'm pretty good at immunology. And then it starts to kind of fall off a little bit. So you came to my lab. You met my colleague, Mahmoud Al-Sawi, right? He's a hematologist who actually does treat patients.
Yeah.
I can't treat patients. I'm not a physician. I need people to help me out, right? So we talk to each other and we present at conferences and stuff, but then we also publish our results and we put these out there in the public domain and say, this is not only what I've concluded, but like, these are the experiments that I did. Here's the data.
Right.
You can analyze it yourself, but this is what I think this means, right?
He's kind of really like your connection to the patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't do the superhero analogy, but he's the guy that actually
boy
does
wonder?
the stuff. He's the boy wonder.
Something. Yeah, I guess he's like, the guy. He's you're like Zordon, and he's the Power Ranger.
I don't know what any of that means
Let's go
because
with
I'm
that.
far too cool, but yes.
You didn't watch Power Rangers? No, I guess not. All right.
No, I was
All
trying
right.
to think of who the Spider-Man or the Iron Man connection
Well,
is.
okay, I can. You're
Yeah.
the Splinter, and he's the Ninja Turtle. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe there's that. Yeah.
Splinter's like the wise ninja.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll take that.
He like teaches them, trains them. He goes out
But
and
then
fights.
he comes back and he tells me, he reports on those fights,
Yeah.
and he says, hey, here's how this went, or this is what we need to do next, or,
Yeah.
so, and he's really like a tangible part of that, but probably representative of the entire ecosystem. And we all kind of talk to each other.
Yeah.
Spider webs.
Spider webs. There you go. And I mean, I guess that's really the thing is like, if you were to break down, like, there's this guy I follow on Instagram that says that he explains things to people like they have CTE. So let's explain to people like they have CTE what exactly cancer is, so that way we can understand, like, what it is that we're trying to cure.
That's cool.
So you have to tell me what CTE is first.
The concussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
He was watching a roast the other night. Was that where you got that from? That roast?
No,
you
I follow a guy on Instagram.
I thought you were joking around about that on the roast.
He's a football player.
Oh, okay.
And he does these reels where he explains like scientific or nutrition things based, and he says, I'll explain this to you like we have CTE, and he's like, this good, this bad.
Gosh, okay, jeepers. All right, now I get it.
oh, I don't know if I can go that. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, we already did that. Cancer, Nicolas Cage.
cancer bad. Immune good.
Yeah.
No, so a cancer is a cell that has accumulated enough changes
Yeah.
that it no longer responds properly to the signals that should stop it from growing. So we have cells in our body die all the time. They turn over all the time. We're making new blood all the time. We're making new whatever all the time. And normally that goes really well. But sometimes we sustain these mutations in our DNA. And if you sustain enough mutations in enough cells over enough time, they stop paying attention to the signals that say stop and go.
Okay.
And when you start going too much, you get, a solid tumor where it chokes off a normal function.
Yep.
It sucks up all the nutrients. It keeps the tissue from functioning. It interrupts blood flow.
Right.
In the case of blood cancers, instead of having sort of a normal distribution of blood, you get that crowded out by cells that not only shouldn't be there and there's too many of them, but they also don't function properly. So now you're kind of knocking out components of the immune system. You're changing the properties of the blood. Yeah. In a nutshell, it's a cell that has lost normal growth control and starts to interrupt normal function.
Right.
Would that work for the CTE guy?
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Try again.
I understood it. I don't have CTE, so whatever. But yeah, it's okay. So, and the essentially just kind of, and then as it grows, it shuts down organs. That's essentially how you die, essentially, right? It ends up strangling. Brain tumors, there's a lot of that because they have tentacles. And I know my grandfather passed away from a brain tumor, and it was basically inoperable because of the tentacles that wrap around the brain.
Yep.
You would have had to cut out half his brain, kind of thing, basically, in order for to get it out.
Right. It turns out you need that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And as you know, right, as cancers grow, we talk about it spreading, right? And so that you'll have the original site, and if you're lucky enough to find it at that point, the surgeon will cut it out, and hopefully you're okay, right?
Yeah.
But if it started to spread throughout the body, like how do you cut that out, right? So we use things like chemotherapy, which are supposed to stop the cells from growing, but they're toxic because they stop those cells from growing, but they also stop a bunch of other cells from growing.
Yeah, you're poisoning yourself.
You're poisoning yourself, right? So there's lots of ways to make cancer stop growing. The trick is to keep the person alive.
Yes.
And segue there, like we're poisoning ourselves right now with some delicious beer, right? But in the news a lot recently, like more so than I've ever seen it before, has been the reemergence of the information about alcohol and how it's connected to cancer.
Yeah.
And the recent recommendations to go down to 1 to 2 drinks a week.
Yeah.
I mean, from your laboratory, from what you see from an immunology perspective, could you even see things like that, or could you say that that's science from your?
So I read the paper as someone who drinks beer because I was actually quite interested in what the paper said.
Completely BS. That'd be great.
We can't do that. So we don't study alcohol. We don't look for alcohol. Ostensibly, I could go see if there's any of it in the blood, but I don't go look.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not no drinks, but it's not excessive drinking. Like the science does actually seem pretty sound that you shouldn't drink too much, but there's also lots of other things you shouldn't do, right? So smoking's real bad for you. Newsflash, I don't know if you guys know that.
Heard about that one, yeah.
Smoking's bad. UV light without sunscreen, also pretty bad. And these are all things that just, they cause more of those mutations, right? So most of the time we repair the mutations. Most of the time it's perfectly fine, but you don't want to accelerate the rate of accumulating those mutations.
Do you know if there's one that's particularly bad for blood cancer?
Oh, there's a bunch.
Okay, like what?
Well, so there's these things called translocations that happen in blood where like the chromosome, so the pieces of the DNA literally break and then reattach themselves the wrong way.
Ooh.
That's a big one. There's a gene called APL that comes up a lot in leukemia. And then there's this gene called P53, which you probably heard of if you read anything about cancer mutations. And P53 has the opposite sort of role. So most of these are what we would call oncogenes. So they turn on something that should be left off or should be controlled, and they kind of chronically gas pedal it. But P53 is this thing, it's the guardian of the genome, is what its moniker is. And its job is to go and tell cells to go quietly die if they've accumulated too many DNA mutations, right? Yeah. And so it's like this sort of... It takes you out of the population if you shouldn't be there. But if you mutate it so it doesn't work anymore, then when you accumulate those mutations, you keep them because there's nothing protecting you, right? Okay. And so some of those, are in blood cancers exclusively, and some of them are everywhere. And then there's other ones that you've heard of, like the BRCA genes, which we find in all kinds of solid tumors. They're famous in breast cancers, but they're actually present in a lot of cancers.
Okay.
There's another one called KRAS, which is like a big deal in the lung cancers and colorectals and pancreas. And they all kind of have the same boiled down functions. They either push the cell to grow faster, or they take the brakes off of something that should be taking the brakes off.
Are there any foods or dietary things that you've ever kind of associated with blood cancer that you could think of?
I mean, radiation's real bad.
Radiation's a real one, eh?
Yeah.
Well, there goes my radiation eggs in the morning.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, you'd have to be exposed to it quite a bit. But like folks that work in radiation plants, or pilots who fly airplanes and have higher radiation exposures have higher risks of things like blood cancers. Yeah. And then there's some stuff that we're just born with, right?
What about radon? I mean, that's another
radon's another bad one. That one's bad around here.
Radon's particularly bad in Nova Scotia. And I mean, if you can put a radon detector in your house, you might be a little bit surprised by the results no matter where you live.
Yes, and I would encourage everyone to do that because it can change, right? From one house to your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Be different.
And there's ways you can really mitigate it effectively too.
Yeah,
and I'm not on we're not getting paid by anybody, but if the sponsor wants to jump in here, give me a call. But I do think it's I do think that's something that people don't always often look at or explore, right? Mm-hmm, yeah, old homes and stuff, like it's crazy. I got a chance to be part of a government radon testing thing.
Okay.
Where I got to simultaneously, because the way that they set it up is I got to look at the radon for like 43 or 60 houses simultaneously.
Okay.
And so many of them had high radon. Like, I don't know where they lived, but there must have been dudes with 3 eyes in the neighborhood. Yeah. Because, oh, sorry, this is a bad joke. But there was a crazy amounts of radon, like in this concentrated area, and I couldn't believe it. But like you just said, one house, none. Next house, like in the red, up to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, and like you say, you can mitigate it, right? So it's worth doing the test. Yeah. There's actually it'd be a great podcast episode for you. There's a team of people that are working on that. Right here in Nova Scotia, on radon, uranium, and small particulate matter, like you'd get from like forest fire type debris, and its role on cancer, but specifically focused out of Dow.
And uranium would be again another blood cancer, radiation, right? And I mean,
that's a hot topic right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like, what about like things like uranium mining, right? Because we see how that dust travels. If you ever look at those YouTube videos, it's pretty scary, right? Because it can go if you're mining radon here. There's this gigantic, almost like dome that the uranium can travel through particles in the air that you wouldn't even see or smell or know it's there.
Right, yeah.
But you could feel the effects of it.
Years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutal.
When it's late, too late. That kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I feel so uplifted right now.
Sorry. You're kidding, eh?
Yeah. So... where's the future? Because I mean, we let's move to something way more happy. Because you guys were really enthusiastic about some of the technology that you're bringing in. You had one. What was the name of that machine that we get to witness?
Its official name is the Prodigy, but we named it the Thinker.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So cool.
What is it?
I mean, you could explain, but as a layman, it was a thing that looked like a sewing machine with a bunch of tubes and knobs that literally looked like a commercial sewing machine. Okay. But those tubes and knobs basically were able to separate cells and put them into different separate bags, and you could take them away. Yeah. So that's essentially what it is, right? Yeah. So we take the cells out of a person, a patient or a donor, and we hang them. They just look like a bag of blood, like you would get from Canadian Blood Services, right? More blood.
and it runs through this machine, and it's programmed to turn valves on and off and let certain things through and other things not. It goes through a magnet that we pull different types of cells apart, and then we can add different things to change the cells. So in that particular setup that you saw, we're using a virus to introduce the new weapons into the T cells.
Wow.
Incubate the whole thing. Sometimes we need to take samples out to make sure things are working the way we want them to be, that, we haven't inadvertently contaminated it or done something we shouldn't have done. And then after about 12 days, on the other end comes out this product in a bag that looks like an IV bag. You take it back to the hospital, and into the patient it goes, right?
Wow.
So the whole thing
Kudos
is...
to you on the most brilliant audio description I think I've ever heard in this podcast about the machine. I thought that was great.
Good, yeah.
I was surprised. I was like, wow, that was brilliantly said. Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was just very engaged. So
Sewing machine with tubes. I was like,
I've not heard that. I say it looks like some guy created it in his garage, but
it does kind of, but that's the thing is everyone thinks like, when they think of high tech stuff, you think like, I don't know, Star Trek or something like, and it's like this big technology with these big computers. It looked so analog that I was like shocked at, first of all, the sticker price and what it can do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like something out of a Willy Wonka movie, right? That can actually manage.
No, actually, Dr. Seuss.
Or Dr. Seuss.
That's what it
It's
was.
also very brightly colored. And
Yes.
It looks like it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So you guys have like, there's lots. This machine is like kind of helping you guys kind of lead the way in a lot of ways and giving you some hope, right?
Yeah. So the first one around, I think it's the first one on this side of the country, east of Montreal.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's allowing us to kind of recreate these therapies. So right now, for a patient that needs this kind of therapy, we have to expatriate their cells, and they're actually going all the way to California and then coming back here for their treatment, which is,
that's right.
Not great. So it's going to let us do that here, but it's also letting us develop a whole train of clinical trials that we're going to be able to do right here in Nova Scotia.
Amazing.
And I kind of said before, every cancer is different, and there's thousands of cures for cancer, so to speak. So we've got a lineup of things that we want to test and move into clinical trials, and now we can do that right here with the technology that we have. So I mean, I think that's
brilliant.
That's pretty optimistic.
Now, and when we talked about analog, like how does it matter with this new AI technology? Must allow you to some degree, to explore multiple theories simultaneously. Is that accurate or not accurate?
So, I mean, not with that technology, because you kind of have to know what you're doing, but with the AI, absolutely, right? So person is as different as their cancer. Their cancer keeps changing as it grows throughout the body, and I'm trying to decide what the right way to program their immune system is. Not to mention that there's all these other things, right? So we talked about the negative stuff before, but we didn't talk about all the positives, right? So people can mitigate cancer risk by having a good, healthy diet, by exercising, by staying in shape, by sleeping well, by not be stressing. There's lots of things they can sort of change, right? So a person who is really healthy and really able to tolerate treatment and stuff might be better suited for a different treatment than somebody who is, maybe not as well, right?
Right.
But what if we could plug all of those pieces in to a computer program and then also add, what are these patients' goals of care? What's available to them wherever they are in the world? What does their cancer look like? And then say, tell me what I should be doing, right? Of the therapies that exist,
so
can I choose?
So you could actually prescribe therapy particular to the variant of cancer that I had, right?
Yeah. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do. So I talked about natural killer cells, but I didn't tell you how cool they are.
Well, they sound like the coolest thing.
They already have a cool name.
Every time you say it, I think of the Ice Cube Natural Born Killers album that came out in I was a big hip hop guy. It
gets a lot of press in our field.
Born Killers.
Yeah.
But,
They're just trying to give cancer that face that Ice Cube has and scare it away.
That would be awesome.
I mean, could we do that? Maybe. I haven't thought about that. I'll put that. Yeah. So anyway, think of them as like little Swiss Army knives, and they've got all these different tools that you can pull out, and you can use them in combination, and that's what makes them different from you to all the other people. So the question becomes how do I configure my Swiss Army knife for this person's cancer, right? And there's about 50 different things I measure times every combination that they can have, and then you can turn the dials up and down.
It's like unlimited episodes of House.
Yeah.
Right? Every time a new problem and a new solution. It's so brilliant.
I got a new thing. Right? So you put all this stuff into the AI, and then you also put all this stuff about the NK cells into the AI, and you say, what should I do for this patient? Right? And so we're trying to build a model of, what of the existing therapies would be best, but what should I prioritize developing next. And that's the AI part. But my favorite part is the complementary part, and that's the avatars that we're building. So for patients, we try to take their tumors out, right, with surgery or by taking blood samples or whatever. We bring those over to the lab, and then we study them. So I can ask questions like, I have 5 different chemotherapies. Which one does this cancer respond better to, right? You can't do that to a patient.
Yeah.
But you can do that in an experiment, and then you can take all that data and plug it back into the AI. So we're hoping over time to be able to actually learn.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Right. What are the patterns, and how do we make this more precise?
It gives you a whole field of brains that you never had before. In
Exactly.
a sense, right?
Yeah. And then you go back to the Swiss Army knife thing, and you say, okay, well, that could be an overwhelming... Your list of answers might be an overwhelming list of answers. How are you ever actually going to deliver on that? It's a Swiss Army knife, right? So it's actually not that complicated.
In the medical field or in your field, how much, I mean, we had a terminology we use of, what was it called? AI. Gosh, what were they saying? AI in the insurance industry, Matt, having, episodes or... They would call
hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I'll reframe that. AI hallucinations. Is that something that you fear in your field?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen any examples of that happening where they might have provided the wrong information?
So not yet, but we're still brand new to this.
Okay.
So we're still working it up. But yeah, I've certainly seen AI hallucinate. But you can set the boundaries on these things, right? So we're not plugging this into ChatGPT. We're building this for purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I think AI, especially the public AIs, you ask them a question and the first thing it'll do is tell you how brilliant you are for thinking up such a wonderful, insightful question, right? You can turn that off, right? And you can sort of say, I only want you to tell me the truth. Like, my ego's fine, thank you.
Never.
But you're right. It is kind of about getting that right. You know, how much do we trust it? How much do we not trust it? And I think the human in the loop, so to speak, technology is not going away anytime soon.
Yes.
Because you still need the physician to sort of say that's a really stupid idea, and here's the 5 reasons you didn't think of that we shouldn't do that kind of thing. So, we're not yet at the point where we would be informing patient care at all. Okay. But we're trying to build that prototype so that's, you asked me what I think is happening in the future, that's what I think is happening in the future.
Another crazy question.
Yeah.
Blood cancer in the future, or cancer in general in the future, do you think this is something that's just going to be an increasingly larger problem for everyone? Or do you think cancer in general might go away over time?
Ooh, I don't think it's going away, but I think we can turn it into a chronic disease.
Okay.
So sometimes it goes away. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's the goal, absolutely. But there's all these cancers. Blood cancer is one of them, where the patient is at risk for their cancer coming back, right?
Yeah.
So this is true of like the sort of leukemias and the famous blood cancers, but also of multiple myeloma, which is another blood cancer. It's a cancer of the bone marrow. Mm-hmm. And what happens for these patients almost always is they respond to treatment. They're okay for a few years. Their cancer comes back. They respond to treatment. And this is like the story for the rest of their lives, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And until they get really sick, it's managed pretty well. But what if we could turn it into a disease where it's probably not going to come back? Right? And so now it's just how do we monitor? How do we screen? How do we know when it's coming back? And I think we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to see, it's a hard question, right? Are we going to see more? Maybe, because we're getting better and better at detecting it, right? So it's always been there. We just couldn't find it. And we're getting better at technologies where we can take a blood sample and start to appraise whether or not a person has it.
And the sooner you find it, the better the result.
The sooner you have it, the better the result, right? And, cancer runs in families, right? So we're finding more and more of these mutations that we can say, let's look out for this mutation. And if you happen to be a carrier, let's keep an eye on you, and stuff. So I think you're going to see the number of diagnosed cases going up, but I don't think that's going to be because more people are getting cancer, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's all these people that have cancer, but they die of something else. So you never counted them, but they had a tumor the whole time.
Right.
Now, I listen to a lot of bro podcasts, so this is going to be a bro kind of question too, because I've also recently got into this intermittent fasting thing, and Matt, you have as well, where and I've attempted this intermittent fasting thing. It's told that there's a rate after so many hours where you actually start to get rid of damaged cells in your body. Is this a play possibly towards resolving cancers in any way? If you're getting rid of all those damaged cells before they have the ability to attach something nasty to it?
So I don't know.
Yeah? No?
I can tell you people are actively looking at it.
Yeah.
And this question of whether what you eat and when you eat is a big one, right? There are links to your circadian rhythm, so like when it's light and when it's dark, and if you break that, so people who work at night and stuff, there are links to that, and there's links to what and how much you eat. So, I mean, probably, but I can't cite a scientific study that says that that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. Yeah.
No, yeah. Just curious,
I'm always I'm always so back and forth on like the whole like food you eat and things, because on one hand we have a crowd of people that are like eat raw, eat like the natural things, like let's eat things that people ate 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, and I'm just kind of like, those people lived to 27. So like,
and then they died of a broken leg, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like, so on one hand, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. I guess to try to eat more natural, eat less processed, because like I guess there's chemicals used in processing and all that. And on one hand, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe. But then I'm on the other flip side of things. I'm going like, we live longer than ever before. So I'm like,
I hope you're enjoying a pint with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Chip here from Don't Overthink It, Chip. Big shout out to the Afternoon Pint Media team for managing my content creator career. If your business needs support, big or small, hit up Afternoon Pint and learn more about our reputation for boosting foot traffic with curated storytelling for your business.
I don't know.
Well, that is going the other way now for the first time in human history.
Not in Canada. It is in the United States.
I thought it was going down to Canada.
No.
Sure about that?
It's in the United States for sure. I saw something. It is. Their life expectancy, they compared it, because obviously there's some political stuff associated with this, right?
Yeah.
But the political stuff, obviously, in the United States, they've seen the average age go down. But in many places in Europe and Canada, it's not.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I heard the opposite of that, but that's just interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but by all means, like ask anything, do your research. But I did see something recently that they talked about that. Yeah.
And I mean, there's beyond cancer, right? There's loads of reasons to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
So tons of processed food and dense calories are just going to make you overweight, and then you're prone to a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
But obesity is a risk factor for cancer,
Of
right?
course,
so
makes sense. Yeah.
controlling your diet controls your obesity, even if it's not direct. But evidence does support it being sort of a direct thing, right? So more fiber changes the microbes that live in your gut, changes the way you respond to things, changes the way you respond to therapy, including immune therapies.
Have been pointed, like such as processed meats, have been directly linked to cancer.
Right. And our rates of colorectal cancer in relatively young people, so like under 50, where they would be screened by FIT tests, we're seeing more and more diagnosis of these, and it's not totally proven link yet, but the thinking is that it's more processed foods and it's a poorer diet and lower fiber and stuff that's leading to this kind of thing. So I can't think of a good reason to not eat healthy. So
Good point. Yeah.
The other thing is, when they say processed foods, it's like things like, pepperoni and salami have been around for thousands of years, and now they're saying like, nope, not good for you. I'm just kind of like, maybe.
No. Like, I mean, unfortunately, and you're talking to Pepperoni's number 2 fan here. If you're number 1 fan, I'm with you. Buddy.
I know.
I love. Shout out to Brothers Pepperoni, another sponsor we'd love to have. But honest to God, no, I love pepperoni.
Yeah.
And love the salamis and but unfortunately, very bad.
Well, I know that's the thing. Like, it's funny,
really,
but like cured meat was something that like people have been doing for thousands of years, because obviously that's how it would not make you immediately sick.
But that also doesn't
you would
matter.
die
it's like
right away.
smoking was really great until like the 60s. I smoked in my lifetime, and I mean, but eventually the science came out that that's probably not a smart thing for me to keep doing. Right?
No form of smoking.
And I mean, of course we hate it when the things we love get kind of victim, you know what I mean? And of course, or whatever. Like I'm mad that you get more than 2 beers a week is bad. I'm really sad about that.
I'm going to maintain the fact that if you're not relaxing with a drink, that you're probably going to die earlier because you're going to be not fun.
And I think you make an important point there, right? Like, it's everything in moderation.
Yes.
And by the way, we're all going to die of something eventually, right?
Yes.
So, no, I mean, obviously don't go crazy, but like, I think everything in moderation is okay.
Well
Everything
into
in
their
moderation.
hundreds
Including
have a
water.
shot of whiskey every night, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, so it is moderation's the key, and don't overindulge.
Except for smoking. Just don't
Right?
smoke. It's
Well,
terrible.
there's nothing from that. Yeah, kind of
Don't
thing.
eat a Trailer Park Boys level of pepperoni. You'll be just
don't do
fine.
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of actually looking at diets and things like that. Have you guys? Is it any on your radar at all to look at like blue zones or like the high concentration of centenarians and find out why they're living so long and like why they're not getting sick and.
So not on mine, but on other people's, and they just have these freakishly good immune systems. Like people have looked, and they do, right? So there's kind of this natural kind of decline that happens in most of us somewhere around 30, where your immune system starts functioning less and less well, right? You also see there's an uptick, sort of above that age in like autoimmune diseases, and that's when you start developing these chronic illnesses.
Right.
But in centenarians, that doesn't happen. Like they take blood samples from them, and they've got the blood system of a 30-year-old or something.
Like
and
98.
And I don't know if we know why yet, but like there definitely is that connection that they're, I don't know, they're superhuman.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy. And it's like, but it's always like areas like Sardinia is like one of the highest concentrated like blue zones in the world. And I mean, they drink every day, by the way, just FYI. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's just like they live like the average age is like 100. Like,
but they also share a gene pool.
Right. Fair. There you go.
So if there's something genetic that's helping them out there.
So maybe
tremendous sense of community, and like there's so many different factors.
Right,
it's almost endless, right? When you look at that. So is it even diet at all, or is it the fact that they have communities that support it themselves and each other so well, and they do that exercise and they get out and they literally
well,
travel every day. They don't
Yeah.
drive vehicles,
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of walking. That's true. A lot of walking, a lot of fish. That's true.
If you talk to if you boil down health, it comes down to sleep, nutrition, exercise, and walking is like the number one exercise, right? Number two is resistance training, but walking's huge.
Yeah.
Right? Like walking's so huge.
Was it Rock Hudson? I think he said he was in such incredible shape and he didn't work out a day in his life. He just walked everywhere and always took the stairs.
Yeah.
There you go. It's relatively simple.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how to put that in a pill form, though.
No, I don't think that. Yeah.
So let's get back to medicine. And we didn't really. Did we talk about medicine much or not really?
I mean, we talked about like research, but not really medicine, I guess.
Where do you think the future of medicine's going for? I know that's a really question.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, where do you think the future of medicine is headed with the type of research that you're doing now, and with what the human.
Yeah. I think it's going into an increasingly precise place, and I choose that word very carefully. So the other word that gets thrown around is personalized, and I don't mean personalized. Meaning, I think that there's going to be more precision with the way people are treated, right? So it not too long ago was the case that it would sort of say, okay, well, you have rheumatoid arthritis, so we're going to treat you with this drug, then this drug, then this drug, then this drug, and we're, hopefully we find one that works for you. The studies that are coming out now are saying things more like, if they have this particular configuration or this presentation or this test positive, give them this drug. And instead of being go A, B, C, D, they're going, you're a D, you're a C, you're an A, and putting them into those places, right?
Right.
And sometimes those are informed by tests, sometimes those are informed by genetics, sometimes they're informed by some marker that we can measure. But if you get the right treatment right the first time, even if it's a more expensive treatment than the first one, you save money, right? Because that person returns to function sooner.
Yeah,
right. You don't waste all the time and effort and health while you're trying to figure out what the right thing is, and then all the secondary effects. And so because we're getting better and better at understanding the subsets of these things that we used to think were one disease, and it's not just cancer, it's all the cancers and all the other diseases, right? We're getting the answer right more and more, and I think that's the future, right?
Wow.
The chemists out there are making these small molecule inhibitors, they call them. So they'll say, this is your genetic mutation and this is how it's mucked up a protein. But look, I made this little chemical that I can put in your body to fix and repair and get back. And we're starting to see the earliest examples of gene therapy, which I think is just so cool, right? So we've been doing this in the lab for a long time where you can correct things that are broken in the genome.
I think that's so cool.
And we're doing it in people now, right?
Amazing.
For sickle cell disease is one of
I'm
the
like,
big
man,
ones,
I can
right?
pronounce all the words I'm reading. Imagine that, a little gene therapy.
I don't think they have a cure for that.
No, no.
It's
Okay,
not on the top of the priority list.
No.
guys, I'm so sorry, but I feel like there might be a band starting or
The
something.
band starts at 7.
Oh, it's 7. Okay,
I
so we
think,
got.
I think
time.
he's warming up, but we should get to
Okay.
10 questions. Before we get to 10 questions,
You got the last question because I got one too.
go
so
for
you
it.
go first.
Okay, I'll go for it. And this is the science fiction question. Do you ever think that we'll be able to achieve immortality?
Whoa. That should be in the 10 questions. That's like a 10 questions.
It is a 10 question, but
Our 10 questions are
Do
usually
you
stupid.
think we should?
100% yes.
Really? Okay.
Do you think so? So that's
I think we should,
philosophical.
and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I think we need to expand and start looking elsewhere. I think the only way we can do proper space exploration is having people that can live forever.
So is it only available to a subset of us?
No, I think we can all do it, but eventually you may have to move out.
Okay, anyway, it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's a deeply philosophical question.
is, yeah.
Do I think we will? No, not in these mortal coils that we wear, but I do think we could probably figure out how to move consciousness into another body. How's that?
That for sure. I think that'll happen for sure. But
Yeah.
you don't think we can regenerate? All right, cool.
I mean, dude, I don't know, but
Yeah. I mean, you're a lot smarter than I am, so
That's like a 10 questions preview because the 10 questions are usually kind of a little out there
Yeah.
inside the box. So.
I like that. That was great.
No, yeah. So we'll get back into them. Here's my last question before we get to 10 questions. So, what do you hope people listening to this show today get out of this, or what would you want to say about your work, your research that you think is valuable? What's your kind of PSA?
That there's justifiable hope in this field. Cancer sucks, but we see it, we know,
yeah.
and we're getting there.
Awesome. Awesome words. Okay, let's get into 10 questions.
Yeah, 'cause we
Matt,
got-
you kick them off, man.
All right.
Did you
and-
hear the 10 questions before,
I
like
did,
on
yeah,
the show?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And just before we get into that, thank you to the Quin's Arm. We're here right now. I know they're warming up for some music. They have some music tonight, but thank you to the Quin's Arm for hosting us. We have some really great beers here, so let's get into these
Awesome
10
spot.
questions. So
Thanks,
question
Quin's
number
Arm.
1. If aliens arrived tomorrow and asked humanity's top scientists like yourself one question, what should we hope they don't ask us?
It's something like, how do you treat each other?
Oh, yeah, fair enough. That's true.
That's good.
Question number
And
2.
she sipped the beer. That was like a perfect answer, and is coolly, calmly
Yeah.
sipped the beer. Okay. Question 2. What's a weird What's a weird people assume? I must have wrote this question in front of you. Okay. What's this weird or strange thing that people assume about your work in cancer research?
Oh, that we've cured cancer a long time ago and we're keeping it a secret. If I had the cure for cancer, do you know what I could do with that?
I know, amazing.
Sell it for trillions.
Yeah. I put it on Temu and help people out.
Okay, you just deleted the question, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hit the back button. Thank
There
you.
we go.
All right, if you could instantly cure one disease forever besides cancer, which would you choose?
Alzheimer's is pretty awful.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True.
That's very true. Yeah, that's pretty awful. Yeah.
Okay. What scientific breakthrough do you think will completely blow ordinary people's mind if they understood it properly? So back to people that are really removed, or a couple steps removed from your universe. What will blow their minds if they understood it?
Quantum physics.
You understand quantum physics?
I mean, I sort of understand quantum physics. Does anyone really understand quantum physics?
I like to read it, but honestly, I'm like, sure.
I watch endless YouTubes about it and then just fall asleep. It just pacifies me.
So I got myself to the point where I can actually understand how time can bend,
Okay.
Yep.
and that blew my mind. And I think I only superficially understand that, but like,
Yeah.
whew.
Yeah.
Like the fact that everything is so
Fabrics of time.
fluid, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not, mass is actually energy and time is not real.
It's not linear.
Time is a
Yeah.
construct.
Yeah.
With you, man. He's awesome.
All
Love
right,
it.
question number 5. If your immune system had a personality, what kind of person would it be?
Specifically mine?
You can answer generally,
I'd
or
say
you.
specifically yours. Yeah.
All right.
That's more
God,
fun.
mine is like some sort of angry gnome. But in the best way. Like,
Angry, no, you're like grumpy Smurf or something.
yeah. Like when it goes, but in the best way. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
You can direct
Holds a
your
grudge.
You can
Yeah.
direct your spite and anger at cancer.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Question number 6. Over to you.
Oh my God.
Get stuff done.
Okay. Give us one of your irrational fears despite being a scientist.
Oh God. That I've been wrong the whole time.
Oh,
That there's something fundamental I think is true that just isn't.
That's like the foundation of everything you know.
Yes, that the whole world will come crumbling down and I will be revealed as an imposter.
That's like thinking
Oh,
about
wow.
your thinking brain, which
Yeah.
I heard was really a really intelligent thing that a lot of the population doesn't do. It's like, what if I was wrong with everything I thought? A lot of people don't ever consider that in life.
Right.
Yeah. So it means you're smart.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good for
we'll
you.
take that.
You're a step ahead of all of us. Good. Yeah.
Also means you're not a narcissist. Question number 7. If you had unlimited funding for one crazy research idea, what would you try?
Besides what I get to do every single day?
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, God, I don't have a good answer for that. I have the best job.
It's awesome.
I
Nothing wrong
would
with
just
that.
do more of what I'm doing. And then, you know what I would do? I would actually hire my favorite NKologists and cancer scientists and immunologists to all come together. Like, what was the group called that, like, invented radar? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Right? So, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
brought all of these incredible scientists from, like, World War II era together in Tuxedo Park, New York. And this, like, rich banker guy put them all up in a house and just said, like, you guys just work together.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Kind of create your own little Renaissance area of just geniuses.
I'm going to think of a better answer for that tomorrow,
push
but
the
that sounds
envelope.
pretty awesome
I
right now.
mean, you didn't say eugenics, so I mean, we know you're not going to be an evil origin story. So,
I hope not.
Okay.
question number 8 overdue.
Sure, yeah. What's something society treats as healthy that probably isn't? So,
Overworking?
Oh,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a victim there.
Question number 9.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with one scientist, philosopher, or historical figure, who would it be and why?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Pretty smart dude.
Because
eh?
I think I would never run out of things to talk about with him. That guy was like,
I think that guy was crazy. I love him.
Sure.
I have
Yeah,
his
oh, yeah.
illustration book at home
Yeah.
where like every page is like a different invention. Like how insane is that?
so I don't think he was crazy, but I think he probably felt crazy because, like, imagine being that smart. Like, there's nobody else around that gets you,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
you're like, I know all of these things to be true. And also, I'm a real good painter. But, like, keep up everyone else.
Wouldn't it be scary if it was the same thing but like Kanye West like 50 years from now? We were like, he was a genius. He was so ahead of his time.
I don't think there's much risk to that.
He went downhill in his final act.
he has some sketchy stuff. He thinks
pretty
he
terrible.
says.
But yeah. But like in his time, music wise, he was a really good musician until he kind of went south.
Off the rails.
Yeah.
Exactly. Be like Einstein. Be
Yeah.
like, you know what? People suck.
Yeah, that's true. Einstein never really went there, did he?
No, he didn't. Question number 10 over to you.
When you're older and looking back on your life, what do you hope mattered most about the work that you do?
I think wow. I mean, I hope I cure cancer. So, I mean, with as much
It's like
humility as I can say that, I really do hope that's true. But
that's amazing. Yeah.
but I think more than that, not more than that. I mean, curing cancer is pretty much
That's a pretty epic
good.
thing to do. Yeah.
I think realistically, I'm going to keep trying, but the people that I work with, especially the young people that I work with and the folks that I'm training, and the capacity and knowledge and talent that I'm helping to develop, I think that's a pretty good legacy to leave behind. Like,
Yeah.
I am just one character in their stories, but they are all amazing humans that are going to go on to do amazing things, hopefully somewhere around here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I think that's
That would be
great.
ideal. Yeah.
Cool. And last call.
Stay here. So last call, we asked everybody same kind of question. So what is one piece of advice that you were given in your life that you would like to give to us?
I think it's learn as much as you can, which was something I learned from my grandmother, who got to go to part of high school or something, and I remember she told me that, and my mother told me that in turn, and I actually come from a long line of very strong women.
Yeah.
But my grandmothers never really got much education, right? But they impressed upon us the importance of learning as much as we had the opportunity to learn, and I think that that runs deep, right? So.
Education
Yeah.
doesn't always mean like learning either, or vice versa.
No,
right?
no,
Like, yeah.
but you can learn
Yeah.
as much as you can from anybody who's willing to teach you anything, right?
Right,
and,
yeah.
and I take that through in my life. The Ted Lassoism that I love is be curious, not judgmental, right? So if you go into an opportunity to learn something, assuming that you already know it or it's not useful to learn, you're not getting anything out of that, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much in this world to learn from everybody. So I think that's my
It's endless.
That's
my
awesome.
advice for you.
That's awesome advice.
Very good advice, yeah.
I've learned things today, and it's been awesome meeting you.
Yes.
Cheers to you.
Thank you.
yeah.
Cheers.
Please come back when you've cured cancer. We'll be waiting. Okay. Hopefully, we'll be still making the show.
Okay.
And we're rooting for you. And this was lovely. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Yeah.